Well, we've got an update. Come on in.
Hey, Auntie.
Hey, everybody. Hi, aunties.
How
I'm
you
Paige Mains
doing?
Hopper. I'd like to welcome you to the Aunties. We Are Your Aunties show. And we're so
Yes,
super excited that you guys are here. How y'all doing over there, aunties?
yes. Oh, we're fine. I'm good. I'm great. I'm very excited.
I've been
Yay.
fine watching all those fine videos of all our black creativity on the videos.
Yes, 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 yes. So we are very delighted to be here with you. How are you out there, studio audience? We want to definitely ask you to participate with us as we go through the program. We are your aunties. You can tell us anything. You can ask us anything. Come up on here on this porch and let's have a conversation and a little breakdown and an update on what has happened over the last week since we last saw you. So, we are going to be talking about, obviously, the Montgomery brawl, but more importantly, the aftermath and what's been going on lately. Because a lot of times, what'll tend to happen is something really exciting will break out, and we'll feel like we're all united and euphoric. And then everybody goes in their own corner and it's over,
Mhm.
and nothing really comes of it. So, that's one aspect we want to talk about is unity. Like, what's
Yeah.
going to happen now? The other thing we want to talk about is the boat captain. We want to talk about the people who, all the arrests that have taken place and what's going on with that. We want to talk about all of the Black attorneys who have come to the forefront to help out the defendants at the brawl. So, wow, ladies, a lot to unpack.
Yes.
A lot to unpack even now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to kind of start with the fact that the chief of police of Montgomery, Alabama, who is a Black man, has proclaimed that the Montgomery brawl doesn't constitute hate crime charges. That's coming from a Black man, police chief, right?
Mhm.
And so, what do you think about that, ladies?
You
Well,
know,
go ahead. Go ahead,
you
Auntie
know,
Rose.
um, I'm just wondering why not? Because I don't understand what they were already was known for giving a finger and just really disrespecting, calling him out of his name. I can't see anything else but racially motivated. I mean, the way they came jumping on him, why? I mean, why? Why would you do that if you're not hating that person of color? I mean, why are you doing that? I don't understand why people say why the chief of police will say it's not racially motivated. Then I need to know what was the motivation. And
And
for
that he
me,
said that, then that he said that is going to affect the case. And he said this pre-trial, pre-hearing,
yeah,
all of it. So I don't know. What do you think, Dr. Noah?
I think they have Stockholm syndrome. To be perfectly frank, that place has a history that's deeply steeped in slavery, and Black people there have got to move in a certain type of way. And then you got re-elections and everything. Everybody want to kind of protect their space, and um, we've never been here before.
Yeah, yeah,
Here
yeah.
before, and we've never had this experience before. And I mean, I was thinking it was a win, that the police didn't show up with guns and tasers trying to just take out a whole bunch of Black people, and we were able to at least see something immediate at the moment. But yeah, Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, that I think that's part of it too, and definitely, I agree with the aspect of politics. You know that everybody's trying to hold their space, hold their job, make sure that they don't rock the boat too much, and all of those things. So they took one person into custody at the scene. No, two people into custody at the scene. Alan Todd and Zachary Shipman, a 23 and a 25-year-old white man. Two 25 and 23-year-old white men. And then a third charge was when Richard Roberts, 48 years old, out there carrying on like this.
He knew better.
Turned himself in the following Tuesday, right? And then they rolled the tape because what's interesting is that they're depending on the videos of all the Black folks who were standing around with their cameras, right? They're depending on piecing all that together. They literally said, we're going to watch it frame by frame to see who was doing what. And we're going to figure out who we need to arrest next. And so the next person they arrested was Mary Todd, 21, because we saw her on the film go over there and get a few kicks and licks in. So she turned herself in. Now, the one everybody's been interested in is Reggie Ray. At first, we thought his name was Reggie Gray, as did the rest of the world. But, now we come to know that his name is Reggie Ray. And interestingly enough, the reason we know his name is Reggie Ray is because he has one of the most powerful civil rights attorneys on the planet. And that is Lee Merritt himself. So Lee had some interesting things to say in terms of the way that he's steering the case, the way that he's handling the case. But I want to talk about two things in particular tonight. And we will get into some of the wounds, maybe. I mean, as they arise, I'm not going to force the issue, but as they arise, we'll go into some of that stuff. But we may be looking at one of the wounds now when we look at the boat captain. Now, there was the boat captain, the head boat captain, the senior boat captain, right, who was the white man. And then our brother Damien, now I highlighted it before we got started. Damien Pickett. Damien Pickett was the co-captain of the Harriet, the steamboat, right? That was going the riverboat. So at first, when they interviewed the captain, the white captain, whose name is Jim Cottrell, he said, and I quote, "The white guys that attacked my deckhand," and he was a senior deckhand first mate, "I can't think of any other reason they attacked him other than it was being racially motivated," end quote.
Yes.
He said, "All he did was move their boat up 3 feet. It makes no sense to have 6 people try to beat the snot out of you just because you moved their boat up a few feet."
Well, they had an opportunity to do it themselves.
They did. And my point is, Mr. Boat Captain, 6 days ago, he had an interview with CNN and he practically recanted his whole quote by saying, "I didn't know what was in those men's hearts. I can't say that it was racially motivated." Now the police chief and the boat captain have both said or alluded to the fact that they now believe that it wasn't racially motivated. But here's what's missing, ladies. I'm going to let the mic go after that. Here's what's missing, in my opinion. What's missing is the audio on those tapes.
Yes.
Because we can try to ascertain what happened based on what we see.
Right.
But it kind of depends on what was said as to whether or not we can qualify this as a hate or a racial crime. What do you think?
I totally agree. Go ahead, Auntie.
That double speak, because whenever the first response is the real response. The second response is the rethinking, the regret, and others in the ears, because they're looking at the total picture, because they want to steer this in a certain type of way. They want to send a message like, oh, you guys are going to get justice, but we don't want you to get the justice that we would give you.
Yeah, exactly.
If
That's
that
a good
was
point.
a shoe on the other foot,
Right. People would be all up under the jail. Right. Well,
Exactly.
prison actually, because let's look at it real quick, and then I'm gonna hand it over to you, Auntie Rose. This will probably help the foundation of the conversation go a little bit further. So right now, can you bring up that slide with all 4 of the criminals, DY? Right now, the 4 criminals who are being charged with misdemeanor assault. Felony assault, the difference between misdemeanor assault and felony assault is that misdemeanor assault means they may spend a little bit of time in jail, maybe up to a year in jail. Felony assault means that they would be spending a much lengthier time in prison. 2 totally different environments, 2 totally different calls. So we can take them down. I don't want to look at them right now anymore.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, but then
when you put this picture up, and something in me just said, because I'm used to seeing our faces there
with the word criminal and thug and all of that. Yeah. And if they elevated it to a hate crime, it would be the punishment will be even more severe. Yes. Which it should be, in my opinion, because look what they did.
Exactly.
So, what do you think, Auntie Rose?
You know what? I'm just gonna say it. It was a hate crime, and that's my belief. I saw what I saw. You have 8 people jumping on one man. They had no regard of one-on-one. It was to run up, to attack, and bring him down. And they didn't care whether they killed him, maimed him, hurt him at all. There was no reason to somebody move your boat a little bit, 3 feet. That is no reason to kill, steal, and destroy. It is not. So the audio, I believe the lawyer is going to get the audio, and I'm sure some people are going to be happy to turn it over. And then we'll see and hear the racial slurs. I believe that. And I know I'm saying that, but the action speaks louder. So we just need the audio to confirm what I believe.
And we'll see, because a lot of the audio, you could hear commentary happening by the person that was taking the video. You could hear, some of the rumbling a little bit, but that initial confrontation, that's where they would have needed to have that audio. And I don't know if there was anyone on deck at that time who really knew what was happening until he threw that hat, right? And then that's when people started coming, and that's when they understood that there was something really serious going on. But also, one of the things we talked about last week, because I always like to do this, like one of the reasons for the We Are Your Aunties show, one of the primary reason is to look at what's happening in the culture, but then go underneath that.
Yes.
To show what's causing it. What's causing this to manifest out in the open the way that it is. And a lot of people, they called, they sent emails and texts. And what they were saying is the way we covered this event last week was unique because of that. Because the media, they just kind of sensationalize and show you what they want you to see and tell you what they want you to hear. But what we're doing is we're looking underneath the surface at us. Yes. To see how this came about and our behavior and what we're going to do going forward from here. And so we look at it through the lenses of these wounds. And one of the things that we said for sure, and anybody looking at this knows for sure, without even ever having read the book, we recommend you do, Healing the Wounds of American Slavery. But we knew that what happened was that contained rage was let loose. Yes. And that's what it looks like. And we're not just talking about they were rageful about that one event. We're talking about the rage that comes all the way down the family bloodlines from our ancestors who were enslaved in this country. And when we really look, we're talking about that region, which is Montgomery, Alabama, and which played a central role in the slave trade. So when we're looking at that, another thing that I saw, I was reading an article and listening to a radio show on NPR, right? National Public Radio. And this woman had written a theory about, she calls it weathering. I call it in my book weariness.
Okay.
And it's when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and then things start happening in your body and you can no longer contain it, and it just comes out the way that it needs to come out. And so, it's from carrying burdens, and they're not necessarily our burdens. Now, do we have some behaviors that we need to correct? Absolutely. But what I'm talking about is the whole playing nice, the need to play nice.
Right. And, right. Playing nice and choking on what you feeling that contain rage that you have to swallow.
Absolutely. Yes, Auntie Paige, that doc had a lot of slave blocks on it. Not only did we come in there, we were sold off from all points from there. Absolutely. We talked about that last week too. And one of the things that's interesting is that after the slave trade was over in terms of going to Africa and importing more slaves into the colonies, once that, or America, at that point it was established as America. Once that ended, they still continued to breed us, our ancestors. And so they were in New Orleans and they would breed them there and then bring them down the river to Montgomery, to that very dock, just like our viewer saying, very astute viewer. And they would parade them up and down Commerce Boulevard or Commerce Street. Commerce, think about what that is. Commerce. They trade commerce on Wall Street. Pigs and corn and pork bellies and gold. Commerce. So they were literally selling us, our ancestors, as commerce. So they would march them up and down Commerce Street. And then, yes, the auction blocks were not only in the dock, but it started off at about 40,000 of the enslaved, right, that they would house there until they could be sold. Well, I read here that, and this comes from a historian in Montgomery. It says by 1860, there were more than 435,000 enslaved people in the state, according to the Equal Justice Initiative. By the start of the Civil War, a year later, Montgomery was among the most prominent slave trading communities in the state. So that's the history of that place. So you want to tell me when it first happened, I think it was the mayor, who's also Black, right? So we've got the police chief, he's Black. The mayor is also Black. And we've got the mayor telling us that this is an isolated incident. Now, we may not have ever have seen it at that capacity where there were so many Black people brawling with white people at once, at least that we know of.
Right.
But I'm sure that there have been so many other incidences if we really look. And I think that's what Montgomery is embarrassed about, is that because they have this brawl, now we're beginning to see all the history.
Yes.
They don't want us looking. They don't want us. They don't want to be under a microscope. They wanted to be able to just cover this up, because by charging those criminals with a misdemeanor, it's basically like a slap on the wrist. Let's be real. It's not no real. It's not a real punishment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't feel like it to them because they're so used to being on the other side. It's like, why I gotta be picked up for this? Why we gotta be the example? You know,
we've got a paraphrase of a James Baldwin quote up on the screen. To be a Negro in this country and to be relatively conscious is to be in a rage almost all the time. That's really close, actually, to the actual quote by James Baldwin. And actually, that quote shows up in my book. I love that quote. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, one of the things that we've noticed and that people have always said and already are saying is that we want to stand by. See, now that the dust is kind of settling around the big event, now is really the time to start watching and paying attention, because we want to see how this is going to unfold. Because if we're not vigilant and we're not participating, then what's going to happen is that, like many other times in this country, we all come out when there's a big event, and then, we march and we do all the things, but then everyone goes back to their neutral corners and nothing really happens. Or people get off for crimes that they should really, literally, go under the jail for. So that's why it's important to really watch. And I know that Lee Merritt, he does not play. He does not play. I mean, he gets to the bottom of. Now, there have been some cases, and I can't remember which ones they are particularly, and I will definitely put them in the comments on YouTube and on in the Facebook Village. But there have been some cases that he lost, or it didn't go as well as he thought it would financially in terms of recovery and settlements. But this brother he has a team like none other, and there are several attorneys who have come out to the aid of the defendants. But he is specifically watching over Reggie Ray. So, yeah, go ahead.
No, I just want to say, like, we did talk about this briefly before, but it's white privilege to be able to be everyone's policeman. That's it, and it's like that's what is in the DNA. It's like, I can do what I want. I don't like something, I step up and I take care of it. And if the police happen to show up, I'm not going to worry about it because the police is going to be on my side. That is what we see all the time. So, and just like us, we are affected. It's in our DNA of being beaten, being criticized, being just so many things that is not that other people experience. And so the contained rage is real.
It's real.
Is real.
It's so
it's
real.
real in the country, because like when I first got here, when I was driving and I
Los Angeles. She came to Los Angeles.
When I came, I'm sorry, thank you. Coming from across the country from the East Coast to the West Coast, and I got here and I think I missed a stop sign because it was covered with trees. And the police stopped me. This is during the time of O.J. Simpson's trial and his verdict. And before, when I left Virginia, a lot of people on the radio came and said, I would not hire another black. They can get out of my face. If they try to come and try to ask me for a job or anything like that, I will not do it. This is what I'm hearing on the way out. When I get to California, I missed that stop sign because it was blocked, and the police pulled me over, and I was on the side of the road for 5 hours because he was daring me to just even frown or curl up my lip so he can bash my head in. So I understand the contained rage. I've been going through it all my life, and it's not nothing we have. And it's real. And I just want to just express that. It is real. It's real.
Now, you talk about somebody having to contain his rage. One of our viewers just brought up a very interesting point. Yes, I did see that video, and I know about that case where the woman first poured her Coca-Cola all over this boy, his face, his hair, and then slaps him in the face twice. This white woman, this 11-year-old black kid. And it was because they were at an apartment building. She was the manager of the building. The kid was there with friends. He and his little sister were there with friends swimming in the pool. How many times have I invited people over to swim in the pool? Yes, that's what people do when there's a pool on your property and it's hot. You invite your friends over. So these two little kids were swimming with their friends, and the manager comes over and says something smart to the little boy. Oh, I know what it was. The little boy said that she slapped his sister, his little sister. And so then the little boy splashes the manager with water from the pool. Well, when he gets out, she pours Coca-Cola all over him and slaps him in the face twice. Two very humiliating things.
Yeah.
Very disrespectful.
Yeah.
And that she felt that she could do that. And here's what I want to believe. I don't know. I don't want to believe it, but I just do. I believe that this woman, we're going to see a lot of instances now of aggression and so-called microaggression of white people against black people because they call themselves retaliating for what happened on the dock that day.
Yes.
And that I hope they sue the pants off of that building, that corporation, that woman. I hope they. But you know what? At the end of the day,
I'm glad that she lived today and not back in the day, because she would have. She'd have got tore up. I'm sorry. hit somebody's children.
Child.
And where was the adults? That's what I want to know.
Well, we were talking about containing rage. Yes, you're right. And we were talking about containing rage. And so my point is, this little boy is 11.
Mm-hmm.
This incident unfolds on him in front of his friends, in front of, the whole world, really, because now it's going viral.
Yes.
What is going to happen to that little boy's soul as a result of that?
Oh, he's already.
That is very, very traumatizing, because when she did it, he took it.
Yeah.
He stood there and he took it.
Wow. And
there was no other Black adult around. And so that is that stuffing down that Black people have to do. That playing nice, even though we're being abused. Yes, Auntie Janelle, go ahead.
But maybe because they were in an environment, I don't know. I didn't watch the video because there are certain things I cannot look at because it'll trigger me. I'll be ticked off. But the thing is, when we go someplace, we don't know if we're going to make it back home.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking when he took her pouring that, he just wanted to make sure that him and his sister made it back home.
And where did he get that from, Auntie?
The society. This is the society. We're grooming our children. Well, when you go over here, don't be doing this because
the talk.
Well, that sounds like we're doing the training, not society.
Well, the training that we're doing is we want them to come home.
Right. And that's my point. The talk.
That
it's even necessary for us to have the talk with our children. Oh, the building guy was there and he was Black. I wonder if he's the one who was shooting the video. Yeah, irritated me too. I mean, it really upset me. It triggered me is what it did. And there's a difference. I was talking to a friend about this just a couple of days ago. There's a difference between being offended and being triggered.
Yes.
See, and both can happen at once sometimes. And I won't go into the full blown description of each, but you essentially get what I'm saying. Like when an incident occurs, it can go all the way bone deep and you want to get back at someone. You're offended. You want to go do something. You want revenge. There's being triggered where someone literally puts their finger on a wound or re-injures a wound. Yes. And then you're triggered. Well, for me, that re-injured my wound of watching my 4 brothers go up to Berkeley just to play, pinball or whatever with their friends or video games or whatever that was. And on their way back, they're stopped by the police. Well, what they didn't know is that when my brothers got home, their stepfather's an attorney. So he went back up there and they handled them. Yes. But everybody doesn't have an attorney at home.
Yes.
Oh.
And so this is something that is just, it's really, it has become an epidemic. But you know what I think is interesting about the whole, it's not funny, Paige, don't laugh. But what's interesting about the riverboat brawl to me is that I honestly think that a lot of white people now who have those certain temperaments and habits and that DNA from their white slave owning progeny or their ancestors, they are going to think twice. They are going to think twice before they attack Black people from now on. I think that's the precedent that was set. What do you guys think?
No, I totally agree. But just really quickly, I need to go back to the contained rage, because there's another young man, the retaliation syndrome that we're going through right now. 12 years old, just went out to take the trash out, and he was arrested. And arrested, now he doesn't even want to go outside, doesn't want to go to school. He's lost interest because they arrested him, said there was somebody that looked like him.
And you know what was interesting about that case? His father was right there.
Yeah.
That's what made that case even more delicate, is that, your father, your mother protects. Yes, absolutely. But your father his role in your life is
Mhm.
to protect you. His father was standing right there. His father was from Jamaica, obviously, had like a Jamaican accent, a heavy Jamaican accent. But he was telling them, this is a good kid. He is not
Yeah.
who you're looking for. This boy is an honor roll student. I just sent this boy out to take the trash.
Mhm.
And then they said that, like Auntie Rose was just saying, false identity. They said he fit the description, which is, they've been saying that for decades,
Years. Yeah.
centuries.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
Somebody said they messed around and found out right on that dock. Yes, they did. They messed around and found out. Yes, and they did put him in a police car.
Yeah.
Did they also put handcuffs on him?
Yes, they
I
did.
think they also put handcuffs on him.
They did.
That's
They
very,
did.
that's
Very traumatizing.
That's very traumatizing because I got beat up by the police in 2004 in my work clothes for a light that I didn't run.
Mm. Yeah. So you can imagine,
And
you
I-
as an adult.
I was traumatized for a
Yes.
long time. If the police had tried to stop me anytime within the first 6 months, they would have had to follow me to a police station with lots of lights, and somebody would have to come out because I would not be. They would literally have to shoot me out of the car. I wouldn't have got out.
So they literally beat you up.
I got beaten up.
Tell us about it. If you don't mind, if it's not going to trigger you. Speaking of being triggered.
I think it's been long enough. Because for a while I didn't trust no authority figures when I was before I was used to working with them. I had gotten off of work, and I commuted, so I went up there. I had gotten home, and I realized I had to pick up my daughter from work, and so I started driving. I'm a commercial driver, so I'm not going to be doing stupid stuff on the road. And so this police car got behind me, and you know how they just follow you. Everything, all of my papers and everything was in order because I make sure my insurance, all that other stuff, because it's you're supposed to, and I don't want to be caught slipping. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I was waiting at the turning signal, so for me to turn in to go and pick my daughter up from where she was working at. And when the light changed, I turned, and the police had been following me, flipped their lights on, and I didn't. I guess they thought I was going to stop in this dark street and blocking traffic. And I went, and I figured since I was close by my daughter's job, I turned into the parking lot and I parked by her job. And they came over there. The police. He tried to tell me I ran this light that I didn't run, and then we were talking, and he, because I don't know, I've never been dealt with police like that. I went to go get my wallet out to show him my credentials, and he basically grabbed me by my arm and wouldn't let me go. I felt. I don't understand if it's a traffic stop. Why you have to touch me and grab me and hold me? And so the children's father had just died, so I was dealing with a lot of stuff.
Wow.
By the time everything got done, there was because I went to go get back in the he was grabbing me, and I just wanted to get away, so I grabbed my steering wheel and I was hugging it. I don't know, I just felt like I was gonna die. I didn't know. I felt like my life was in danger.
Right.
I was outside my daughter's job, but some other police came. It was like 6 big police officers. They was 3 and 4 times my size because I was real small then, and they was shining the light into the restaurant where my daughter was working at, and was holding the door so they couldn't come out. But there was people standing around. They grabbed me. They slammed me down on the concrete and smashed my face and everything down into the concrete. I got cussed out. I got told all kinds of stuff, and I got felt up. It was just.
Were these all white officers?
Yes, they were. They were. And the thing is, I was in my work clothes. I got beat up in my work clothes, my bus driver clothes,
Uniform.
my uniform. But I followed everything, I'm not going to take up any more of the time.
No, but they just felt like beating somebody up. Essentially, is what it is.
Yeah, and so I got dragged off to the hospital after they got put me in the car, and I was handcuffed outside in the emergency area. They checked me out, and then they took me to jail where I sat all night. Nobody checked on me. I knocked on the door. There was no clocks. There was nothing. And I was just the phone that they gave me to use. You know, your phone call. The phone to make the call for free wasn't working, but the phone to pay was, you can call there. And my folks sat outside all night, where they had me at. And my mother told me, and they were waiting outside, and they kept telling them, why you keep calling? I'm trying to check them. We sent her home, but I was in jail all night.
And this is the history of this country.
Yeah,
I was in, and then to make insult to injury, they charged me for resisting arrest after all said and done, and I had to get a lawyer to protect myself.
Yeah. And that's another one of their standards, is that they fear for their lives. Somebody was resisting arrest.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a thank you for sharing that, Auntie Genoa.
yeah.
And we are very, very, very sorry that happened to you. But you know what your story proves? It points to that it really doesn't matter if you're a Black man, Black woman, Black child.
Yes.
If you're Black in this country, there's a history with the police. There's a documentary on Hulu right now. It's called The Sound of the Police. And, you know, it's not, for me, it's not the absolute best in terms of production value. But what I really appreciate is how they tease out the history between the patty rollers of the slave institution of slavery, American slavery, all the way through the police forces today. And one of the things they said, as somebody said it earlier, is that, you know, white citizens took it upon themselves to police Black people no matter where we were.
Yes.
You know, so they had the patrollers who essentially volunteered or got paid very, very little for harassing any Black people who were standing around where they thought they shouldn't be standing, saying what they thought they shouldn't be saying. And especially when there were more than 2 or 3 of us together, they would go and just absolutely beat, harass, do whatever that they wanted to say or do.
Ladies, could you give me a second?
Yes.
I'm gonna.
Okay, no worries.
And that was passed down.
That was passed down.
And it's still happening today.
It's still happening today. So then my question becomes this too. When they want to say that it wasn't a race crime, let's flip the script.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that was a white police officer or a white co-captain. Let's just even say the white captain got off of the boat and went over and pushed the pontoon boat up 3 feet.
Yes.
And there was some Black people who owned the pontoon boat.
Mm-hmm.
And the Black people came over and socked the police officer or the captain. Let's just keep it at captain. Let's not even elevate it to police officer or escalate it to police officer. Let's just say he was white and these people that attacked him were Black. Then would it be a hate crime? Then would it be a race crime?
Yeah.
Based on my experience in this country as a Black woman, right? Based on the writer of this book, Healing the Wounds of American Slavery, and the 20 plus years of research that went into that book, I say they absolutely would not have attacked him, first of all.
Oh, of course not.
Because of what Auntie Genoa was saying, like the whole Stockholm syndrome, and because of the programming, right, from the institution of American slavery, and whether it's in our DNA, whether it's behavioral, you can say whatever you want about it, that Black people will behave a certain way around white people, especially white people of authority, with some authority. But would they have called it a hate crime then, or a race crime, and tried to escalate it to the most serious level of the law
Mhm.
and prosecute them at that level. It would be a felony hate crime, I think.
Yeah, you know what? It's the same thing. It's the same thing since slavery. It's the same platform. It's the same. The laws is still the same. It's
Still
a
the
different
same.
day and time, but it's still the same because people, all of that hate has filtered into their DNA, just like all of the shaking and the fearfulness and all of the things as the trauma that we have.
The trauma. Yeah.
The trauma
Yeah.
that we have is in us. You know, why do we have diabetes? Diabetes comes from
Absolutely.
stress. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
But why is it more Black people with that than anyone
Why?
else? You know,
Why?
with that, why exactly? So I'm saying, you know what? I've seen so many documentaries where you have a Black guy, you have a white guy that do the same crime, same judge, but the Black guy gets 20 years, and the white guy maybe do get a year probation.
Oh my
slashed
God.
on the wrist.
Yeah.
And community service. Let's not forget that.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. And
And
you know
community
there's nonprofits where people will just actually let them work there, and then they don't have to do that.
Right. You know, I think I know who this is in the Village. These Facebook comments are coming from the Village. Healing the Wounds of American Slavery has a village on Facebook. Go find us on it's the Healing the Wounds of American Slavery Village, and you answer 3 or 4 questions and come on in to a place where you belong, where our healing gets real. And one of our villagers in there said they get angry when we are law-abiding people. He had already run your plates and got mad because he couldn't find anything on you. She's talking to Auntie Genoa. That's what makes them angry and mad. The only reason they become cops so they can put hands on us. You know what? That's true. That's why those patrollers and those patty rollers became police. Patty rollers back in the day. It's because they were angry because they were just as poor as the slaves. A lot of them, they had nothing. And they felt like they had some form of authority or some form of position by becoming a patty roller and abusing and attacking Black people. So one of the things that I think is really important to look at here too is I will take us back to the beginning. Let's circle back to where do we go from here?
Yes.
Because it's just interesting. Okay, go ahead.
No.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. We need to wake up. We need to learn. And I was awakened, and I can't stress it enough. By reading this book, Healing the Wounds of American Slavery. And it teaches you. It just changes your perspective on why it changes. It's so important.
It really does change your life.
I'm not trying to,
No, we're not here to sell the book. The book's going to sell itself.
Oh my goodness.
But I understand. I mean, because I know, I don't know what I was doing recently. I was, I know what I was doing. I was setting up the curriculum for the path, which is classes that we're going to be teaching online as to what do you do with all of this?
Yes.
What do you do with all of this? And so that was one of the things that I was looking at. I was going to talk about unity. Because what I recognized is that the people who were on that dock were unified by their wounds.
Yes.
They were unified to get back at the people who attacked the Black man. Because they were unified by their wounds.
Exactly right.
So I'm looking at, my question becomes, it was just so automatic.
Yes.
That unity, they didn't even think about it. They didn't have to plan. They didn't have to organize. They didn't have to have a meeting. It was just like, somebody's in trouble. Let's go help.
Yes.
So now the question becomes, what is it that prohibits us from unifying around non-wounds, around causes and around communications and around situations, just on a regular everyday basis?
Mm-hmm.
What is that precludes that prevents that? from happening. And some of the things are, just the mistrust.
Yes.
The betrayals, the crabs in a bucket, and all of these things come down the family bloodline, the generational bloodlines from the institution of slavery. Like, there's not enough for all of you.
Right.
And so somebody's going to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then if I have a family in my cabin, and there's only so much,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then what do I do?
Right.
So here's Michelle McIntyre. Hi, Michelle. And she doesn't believe that the attack was racially motivated. So say more about that, Michelle. We'd love to hear from you, because there are people who believe.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with believing that, but we would love to hear why you believe that. Someone else is enjoying the conversation. You're so welcome. We love having you all here and really interacting with you about these different topics. So we're waiting for Michelle to come back with why she doesn't believe the attack was racially motivated. And in the meantime, I want to just keep that question on the table. What do you think about it, Auntie Rose? Why can't we? And we can unite to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
We can unite enough to go out there and raise our fist and change policy and, or attempt to move the needle on policy and all of that. But I mean, in terms of our everyday lives and just loving one another and really coming together to move the needle on our relationships and our progress in our emotional health and well-being and just the way that we treat each other. Because I'll tell you what, the Black on Black violence right now is at an all-time high in a lot of cities.
Mm-hmm.
You know
what? I just, before I read the book, and I have to go back to there. Before I read the book, I didn't understand why I cried so hard when I saw Roots or any type of movie where it showed us being beaten and mistreated, and I didn't understand why I was hurting so much, because I said to myself, okay, I don't know them, and why am I so upset? And I just think about it, because once I read the book, then I understood the wounds of why we are being the way we are, and that helped me. And I think with knowledge is going to help us, knowing where to put it, because sometimes you don't know where to put it. You don't know where to put that anger that contains rage, that fear, that all the things that you feel attacked. Why are we anxiety? Why are we having all these different ailments because of stress? And nobody's really stressing you out, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Why is it on the surface? And I think us being unified is, we just need to know. We need to appreciate each other, which I think deep down we do, because look what happened.
Yeah, we do.
So
I believe that.
We do appreciate each other.
Here's a great comment. There is still too few convictions for hate crimes for the flip side of the people committing them. You know what's up? Thank you, Darren. You know what's so interesting about what he said?
Mm-hmm.
I went looking for the laws on hate crimes in Montgomery, Alabama, because I was trying to draw a comparison between the laws for assault, both misdemeanors and felonies, and then, how that compared to hate crimes, the laws for hate crimes. And I'll tell you what, we'll have to do some digging, because those laws don't immediately pop up when you Google them or do research in Nexus, Lexis, or any of that. It doesn't. And I'm sure attorneys may know how to get their hands on that information, but for lay people who may be, trying to address certain crimes in their neighborhoods and all of that, it's just not available. But Maryland popped up, California popped up, a lot of different states popped up automatically where people really care about hate crimes, and they know who commits most of the hate crimes. And so they want access to those laws. But isn't it interesting that Montgomery is not easily accessible like that? Great point, Darren. Go ahead, Auntie Genoa.
Okay, just to to address what his comment. The thing is, when he's talking about too few convictions, the laws were never written for them anyway. They were written towards us because they judge that the moral majority. They judge themselves by their intentions, and they judge all the rest of us by what we do.
Right.
And the laws were not written. That's why you can't hardly find it. It wasn't written to address them.
Right. And they don't want to be governed by their own bigotrous laws. That's what that is.
And they're not. And that's why even if they get a lot of time, by the time they finish taking all the stuff off, like you go to the store and you're buying something and they got all these little discounts and coupons and stuff like that. That's kind of what they do when they get in trouble with the law, and they help them out. So they might have something big, and about time they get done, it's this.
Yeah, let's talk about George Zimmerman, for example. After he killed Trayvon, and because he was related to the police in Florida, they not only got him off, but now he's out here autographing bags of Skittles and carrying on. So here is a comment again from Darren. I like this one too. I'm thinking at the FBI had the mayor, chief of police, and the captain dilute the stories. Either the FBI or someone. Yeah. It may have even been the governor. We don't know. But we know that, they do start to backtrack. They start to dilute. They start to do all manner of things when it comes to, thinking that they might lose their position or some form of power.
Or, you're burning crosses in the yard, or, you're throwing bombs or different things that's going to intimidate people. And it's remember to put you there and we can take it out.
Yeah. Somebody said, watching my Black people have each other's backs makes me so very proud and happy. I think it made a lot of people proud and happy. And, I want to be proud and happy. There was definitely a source of satisfaction for that. Yeah. Wow, finally, two things. Finally, we unified publicly in a moment, not having to organize, have a meeting, think about it, do think tanks, all that. We organized in a moment to retaliate against the hate. Yes. And then the other thing is to retaliate against the hate. And also, I lost my train of thought.
Well, you know what? A lot of us believe the hype of mistrust. I mean, I've met plenty of Black people that, slavery didn't happen. So we got a lot of people that really don't have the right knowledge, haven't been taught. And they don't understand because they're around certain people that believe a certain thing, and so they do too. And it's like, why are you so mad? Why are you so mad? You be happy about getting beat. Be happy that I have to have a talk with my children. Be happy that I don't know if they're gonna come home. And that causes a lot. It's a lot of stress and living that way. To live 24/7 under stress. Wondering, worry.
Yeah. Oh, I know what I was going to say now to JJJ. Hi, JJJ. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us. Watching my Black people have each other's back makes me so very proud and happy. I am looking forward to the day when we unite around a non-crises situation. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just can't fix stupid, somebody said.
Okay, now Michelle did get back. Michelle did get back too.
She did. So you want to read her comment, Auntie?
Okay, so I've seen too many of these drunken, obnoxious people in the park. If you get on the wrong side of them, be prepared for a fight. They refused to move the boat before they saw any Black man.
But once they did see a Black man, what did they do?
They jumped him.
They beat his butt.
Just like a gang. It looked like a football. When they're playing football and somebody gets the ball and then everybody just jumps on top
tackles
of them. That's what it looked like.
But I get Michelle's point too, that they may have been drunken, these white men and women. Mm-hmm. They may have been obnoxious. But how are we getting on the wrong side of them by doing our jobs and just living and just shopping in a store, just taking the trash out, just coming home with our bus uniform on, just coming home with some Skittles and an Arizona iced tea. Breonna Taylor just being in bed sleep. There are just so many examples that we have to, and it has that common denominator. We can't be blind. We can't continue to be ignorant. We can't continue to try to make excuses or bury our head in the sand.
Or continue to die.
Something in the water ain't right.
Yes.
Okay.
That could be true, Michelle. It is a cowardly attack. But in this country, our experience as Black people, I mean, there's just too much evidence, dear heart. There's too much evidence.
Too much.
Against people that we know, against people that we don't know. And it's constant. The attacks are constant.
Yes.
So what do you account that to then? I mean, I don't know.
And now we just have cameras. Before it was no cameras. So people automatically feel that they can do it because they're so used to beating and killing people.
Here's my question for Michelle. Could it be at once cowardly and racist? Okay, now we're on to something here. Darren Duncan, I agree they were drunk and multiplied the hate that was already there. Yeah. Because what we know is that when people drink, their inhibitions go down.
Yep.
And what's already there manifests to the nth degree.
Yes.
And so that's what I believe that we saw there. And unfortunately, we're at the end of our hour. I know we could always go on for like ever in these conversations, right? And we will continue to follow the Montgomery Brawl and the aftermath of that. But we want to also continue to look at other current events, what's going on around the country, and how we can look through the lenses of these wounds to see what's really underneath the surface of these actions. I want to give each of the aunties at least a minute to leave something with the people tonight. Go ahead, ladies.
I encourage you, Michelle, to please get the book to understand totally what is happening in these United States. The Healing Wounds of American Slavery.
Yes, and it's both in print and audio. On Audible, I read the book to you. So that would be amazing if you could do that. Auntie Genoa?
For me, I admonish the people that have the privilege that's watching to really just look and see what was there. And you flip the script and ask yourself if it would be acceptable if it was the other way around. Like I said, you guys judge yourselves by what you think your intentions are, and you judge everybody else by what they do. Shouldn't your feet be held to the same fire that you're holding ours to?
Drop the mic on that note. Thank you for joining us. We're going to see you next week. We are your aunties, and we're going to say good night, and we love you. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, auntie.